Happy Monday.
I caught you. You're on your phone.
I was again. I cheated. Okay, I was trying to go last minute. Mom, we're going to be on now at 7 o'clock. So there you go. If you're out there, Mom, hello.
Well, happy Monday. That means it's Canes Alumni Biz by CanesWear night. It's 7 o'clock. And our guest is Will Manso, and he will be here momentarily. We'll see when he joins here.
Who do we got out there now, Ken? We got Tamika. Who do we got out in the crowd? Let's see.
Hey, Tamika.
Joe, Daniel, Romit, Drew. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Canes Alumni Biz by CanesWear.
There's Will. He just joined.
Excitement is brewing. Excitement, the energy, the tension, the drama.
What's up, guys? Let me get this thing straightened out.
See, he's like me.
I have it set for work stuff, so I always have to have it the side angle,
Yep. Well,
Let me get
Brett actually tried his. He did his first Instagram live sideways, and we had to fix it out. So
I will set it up differently now. Well, because work is always like, oh, you gotta have it this way, you gotta have it this way. So I will
right.
set it now and get us situated so we can do this the right way. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Fantastic. I like the impressive line of shirts and jerseys you have behind you.
See that? This is well, when they told me I had to work from home, they said, hey, I said, I got to create my own set, but how do I do it? They're not going to give me equipment, they're not going to give me like cool stuff. So they said, you have to create your own. So I said, okay, I'll just get all the jerseys out of my closet and start putting them in the back. There's my sports set.
There you go.
And when you're on Channel 10, it actually is, everything is the right way versus when you're on Instagram and everything is backwards.
I know. Isn't it funny? I
The world upside down.
I keep the one Emmy there. Like, I'm not a big awards person, but I figured, okay, if I won one award, so I'm going to keep it there.
Yeah, it's perfect because then everything has to have a place right there.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the win, Will. Congratulations.
I tell people, it's like I've got one Emmy and I've run one marathon, because once you win an Emmy, you're Emmy award winning. Once you win a marathon, you're a marathoner. So I don't need to do any more.
I like it.
I don't need any more.
That's a good philosophy. I'm going to take
Well,
that.
so I've done a 5K. So does that count?
You're a 5K-er. You're good. You don't need any more.
All right. Well, so officially welcome to Canes Alumni Biz by CanesWear.
Welcome.
Oh, it's good to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad we could fit in your schedule. You're all over the place. You got all kinds of stuff going on, as always.
Yeah, but it's a good, and these days, it's anytime we can sit like this and talk sports and have some fun, man, because it's so much craziness going on. It's nice.
Well, so how about you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Will Manso. I work over at WPLG Channel 10. I've been there since 1999, so it's been a while. I also get to do stuff with the Miami Heat when there is an NBA season, doing some studio work with them. And I'm a Canes alum, proud Hurricane, always representing the orange and green.
Awesome.
I tell people all the time, like, I cover the team, it's fun, but the reality is, just like all of us, I'm just a fan, so when they lose, I'm ripping the hairs out of my head. People are talking about fire this guy, fire that guy. I'm that same emotional fan. So I was at UM as a transfer in got there late 95, 96, 97 before I started my TV career. And let's just say you guys know history well. Those weren't exactly the good years of UM football.
Well, like I told you, I was there at the same time. I was hoping to be in the Orange Bowl for all kinds of great things. And
yeah. Well, we look back, though, it was a good time in the sense that that's where Butch came and changed the program. So even though we had to be at the bottom to work our way up, we were there as part of this is where the program started to turn again, and Butch kind of turned things around and made things better.
Right. Agreed.
We had a lot of good athletes at that time for the football team. I was just looking at the roster. We had a lot of number one picks on that team.
And the funny thing is, I look back to those teams and I'm like, man, there was talent there. I joke all the time with Twan Russell is the guy that we were around the same age and we went to UM at the same time. And we look back at those teams and the players. The one thing the Canes, and you guys know this, is it doesn't matter when they've struggled or even now in the down times where they're not a national title contender, they always have talent. They always have first round picks. And last night on the show, and I know we'll talk about it, we talked with Greg Rousseau, and he's a kid who could be a top 5 pick next year. It's like, right. It's insane how through it all, the pipeline has always been just incredible talent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was looking at '96. I think you were at you were on TV at the U, and I think it was Kenny Holmes, Dwayne Starks, a bunch of
Oh,
others. I mean, first round picks right there. So there's a lot of talent on those teams.
I remember doing a story with Dwayne right before he got drafted. I remember, you know, it's a funny story, and I've never had a chance to tell Ray this because Ray went on to become a superstar and a Hall of Famer. But Ray Lewis, when he was at the U and when I got there as a junior, was already obviously a great player, and everybody knew he was going to be a pro. And I needed to make a resume reel going my senior year, and I didn't have a good feature story. So I went to the UM SID trying to get an interview, and they were kind of, you know, with the kids back then, they'd help you, but the priority is always like the so-called real media, you know, like the local stations. So I went to Ray and I said, hey, Ray, look, you got such a great personality. Can you just meet me over at Green Tree, over at the practice field, you know, and let's just do like a feature. And Ray and I walked together and just walked and talked, and he was talking about the passion he had for the game, and I made it this really cool feature, and that feature was on my resume reel that got me my first job in TV.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So Ray kind of did me a favor to help me out by giving me good content.
Awesome stuff.
And as they say, the rest is history, right?
The rest is history for both of us. I mean, he became a Hall of Famer. He did okay. And then, you know, I got my first job in Montana and then worked my way back home.
So, were you gonna say something?
No, you go.
So we have this social distancing rack in between us. So I can't get the.
Yeah, no, it's just.
I was wondering if that was
I won't ask.
If it was quality product placement or there was more to it. You know?
No, yeah, there's more to it. You know, since we can't be like this way with side by side without a mask, you know, figured this is better than having the mask.
It is a little bit part, you know. I know it's you know, it's all about 4th of July coming up, so we did go ahead and lead off with 5 hats. There you go.
Now you can see the.
All right, wanted to make sure that everyone knows the props are real. Okay, this isn't just a background.
Okay. All right,
Real
but
nice.
Anyway, see, comic relief here at CanesWear.
We need it.
Somebody's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
We got to smile these days.
So, what is your favorite? I mean, you've done all kinds of sports. You've done Heat, everything, and all the stuff that you cover for WPLG. Do you have one favorite moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this just happened?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, championships are always the obvious moment because they're so rare and they're so special. Like the 2006 Heat was a lot of fun to be in Dallas. And I remember, you know, they win, and then we go in the locker room and Pat Riley is throwing all the cards. You remember that he made those cards? He put them in the bowl.
15 strong.
Yeah, he threw all these cards. You know, there's cards flying everywhere. Alonzo Mourning, you know, is there. Just, I mean, he won his championship. Shaq is there holding the trophy with Dwayne crying. I mean, moments like that are cool. But I think there's a lot of other moments too, just where I just kind of pinch myself like, wow, what am I doing here? Like, I got to cover the World Cup in Brazil and going to the World Cup final, and it was Argentina and Germany, and being there, and I looked around like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm at a World Cup final. This is too cool. So moments like that are cool, but I think you guys said it best. Just meeting just thinking of all the names. I'll run into some of the guys that I cover. Sometimes at Heat games, I'll be walking the concourse and I'll run into Juan Pierre or, you know, somebody who's like, you know, through the years, and you sit there and you say to yourself, man, A, there were some great times, right, covering some of these guys, and B, we're getting old. You know, the combination of both. So honestly, guys, I can go on and on because they're honestly, I've been so fortunate. You work in this business long enough, you go to some great moments, and we've had some great players and teams in this town. So all the championships, all the moment, but I think all the players, the relationships you have, and see them grow up to be, you know, in their 40s and 50s and older, and have kids and families, and, you know, live their lives and become businessmen and sports guys that work in the business. It's just cool to see.
Right. Absolutely. So, Will, what was it like surprising? You obviously saw the 2001 National Championship, when you were obviously at Channel 10. You've got before that, 2000 that we kind of got ripped off. 2001 that we won. 2002 that we got ripped off. 2000
that we won. You could say that.
Exactly. That we won. 2003, you got the Marlins that you covered. Obviously, the Marlins won that big World Series. You know, you got the Heat in 06, and then the Heat run again. So you've obviously covered a lot of championships and teams. How would you compare? Is there any team that was the most surprising? I know the Marlins were probably surprising coming from way back. But what was like the most surprising moment for you for a championship or for any team?
Well, I think the Marlins is the obvious one, the '03, because that was like kind of a, you had Dontrell and Miggy and Mike Lowell and JP and all the Derek Lee and all these guys that, when you look at back now, you say to yourself, man, that team was really good. How did we not know they could be a World Series contender? But we just didn't. You didn't know Miguel Cabrera was going to be a 19-year-old force. You didn't know. You didn't know that the chance they took on Pudge, that Pudge in that 1 year was going to, play at that level. Sometimes, player of his stature, you come to a situation, it doesn't work out. But I thought that team was so much fun to be around, like such a unique cast of guys. Like they were also, I mentioned JP, like it was a fun group to be around. And the fact that they actually pulled it off and won a championship, and remember that team had 2 parades. That team had a parade in Miami and a parade in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. But the '06 Heat, I'm kind of like that team to me, because I love Zoe and, and having Gary Payton and then young Dwayne and Shaq coming in as being the whole Batman and Robin thing. And then the Flash, what he developed into with Dwayne. That team was special too. But when you look back, honestly, guys, championships, like you can't be too picky. They're all
no, not at all.
They're all so cool. And I look back at honestly, I guess if you really want to have a true answer of the best experience, the 4 years of the Big Three in itself, when you think of like, you hear people talk about the Beatles, what it was like to like, what the Beatles were when they invaded America, like the Big Three, those 4 years were a blur. I mean, I look back not too long ago, and I think I went to like 83 or 84 playoff games in those 4 years. I covered everyone. That's an NBA season of Beatles-like coverage of playoff games. And I can work until I'm 100 years old, 120 years old, and I'll never experience that again. And I don't think as a town we'll ever see anything like that madness. It wasn't just one great season. It was 4 seasons where wherever they went, it was something incredible. So that was that was an amazing time.
So last night on the Sunday sports show, you were talking about all the crazy things that are happening right now that are about to start up. All the leagues getting back to it, starting with MLS. So I guess we can start there. What is your opinion on the MLS?
Well, I just got, last night I had a conversation with their communications person because we were talking about, obviously, logistically, there's not much the media can do with these games. It's not like you can go down to the field and report like we normally do. There's the whole, and we get it. It's like we understand that safety is the priority. But it's crazy when you hear the plan of what they're doing. I mean, these guys, some people say it's not worth it. That's a debate for other, somebody else saying, okay, we shouldn't even be playing sports. For us, as guys that love sports and people that love sports, I can see why, as an athlete, as a player, as a fan, you want to try. You want to see if you can do this. But the amount of work, like the MLS is kind of the guinea pig, right?
Right.
They're the first league that's really going to play a team pro sports with the bubble theory, with the daily testing to see if it works. And he told me something interesting. He said, it's funny, all the leagues, the Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, they're all on calls all the time together saying, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Yeah. So the MLS knows that they're kind of the guinea pig. And remember, the NBA is arriving on the whole Orlando campus at the same time the MLS is starting. So I think everybody's just trying to figure out how the heck are we going to make this work and, be safe. Because in the end, if you're not safe, if a player gets sick, if something happens, it's going to get shut down and deservedly so. And I think that's what they're clearly trying to avoid.
Well, and they're all going to be at Wide World of Sports all at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, think about it. You're going to have one side over here, all 300 NBA players. On over there, you have 300 MLS players, and then you have all the things that go into playing and practicing, and who uses that field, and where do you eat, and the logistics of it are really insane. And again, there are people that think it's not worth it, but I haven't talked to one player or one coach or one behind-the-scenes person who said to me, "We don't want to do this." I think they all want to at least try, and if it ever gets to the point where like, hey, we're trying, but this is just not going to work, then you cut the cord and you move on.
So the MLS that season in Orlando is how long?
It's a month. It's what they're doing is a tournament. So it's every team has 3 games that you're guaranteed to play. So you're going to play 3 games. Inter Miami has one on the 8th, the 14th, and the 19th, I think. Then the teams that perform the best, that win, will then a group of those will advance almost like the NCAA tournament to the next round, and then eventually to a champion. And it's all going to configure in on the season, but it's not really regularly season games that are scheduled. There will be like a point system, and you will get something out of winning that tournament and advancing. But the plan is after the tournament ends in like 34 days, whatever, I think it's 34, 35 days that the tournament takes to get played. Their plan is to resume the season and pick up the schedule kind of where it's supposed to be in August and go from there. So, but I mean, like everything, guys, it's just, I mean, people ask me like, hey, do you think this is going to happen? I'm like, ask me tomorrow, because my opinion tonight's going to be different tomorrow than my opinion the next day is going to be different than tomorrow. So
Right.
it's just, it really is the classic cliche of day to day.
So should we ask you your opinion then for Hurricane football?
It's as a Cane fan, look, that's what we're here, right? It's like, and I mentioned Greg last night on the show, and you hear the enthusiasm in his voice of how much he said. He's like, man, this is my second family. Coach Diaz, the players, the staff, the strength trainers, everybody that they deal with. These guys want to be out there. Like, they love being around each other. This is what they live for.
Right.
So they're moving forward as thinking it's going to happen. And Manny Diaz has told them, look, just don't worry about the big picture. We'll handle that. Go day to day, and we'll protect you. We're going to have the proper safety measures. You know, Greg was saying they social distance. You know, usually, like, you know, you picture a gym, like a guy spotting a guy and cheering him on. Mm-hmm. They're doing that from 6 feet away, 10 feet away, you know, and it's different. And a lot, you got to get there with mask on, and but to these players, man, that's the whole college experience. I mean, they want, this is what they live for. Think of that opportunity. So can they make it work? College football's tough, you know, with the fans. There's not going to be any fans. I think we know that. But with the students, they're student athletes. They have to go to class. How is that going to work? How do you quarantine? How do you let a Greg Rousseau or a Derek King or these guys go to a class and not know what those kids, where they are, and then these kids go to practice and do, you know what I mean? So there are things like that I don't know how you can't bubble college students. They're college students. They have to go to class. They have to study. They have to, you know, progress. So it's a big challenge.
How would you compare this year's team to last year's team? And speaking of different players, coaches, and things like that, with Manny coming along from first year versus second year, everything involved.
That's the disappointing thing, is that we haven't gotten, and again, I know we're talking sports, but that's the point here. We're talking about entertainment and fun, and we were so looking forward to seeing this team in the spring and seeing, you know, King, what he looks like. And we've seen the video from him in Houston. He looks like the real deal. Certainly has a great attitude. The kid is a leader. I mean, already a proven leader. And I think he would have made a big difference on offense. But to me, guys, the defense, you know, when you've got Greg, when you've got Quincy Roche, when you got Jalen Phillips, just on that D-line alone, you know, and you look at the potential to get to the quarterback that trio has, and other young guys that they've got. I really thought that this could be an upper end of the country defense. And with Derek King maybe stabilizing things at quarterback, then maybe being able to be a more efficient and effective offense. I know it's a broken record with the Canes, you know, well, this is the year. But I really was getting the sense that Manny had put in a grasp of his system and what he wanted, and his staff and players, that maybe we were going to see them turn the corner a little. And now we have all this uncertainty where it's like, you know, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, this year, it's like, I think this team is stacked. I think Manny I know last year it didn't work out the way we wanted it to work out, but you learn from mistakes or just how things turned out, and everything he needed to get, he got the quarterback, got the offense coordinator first, then the quarterback, got the offensive lineman, got the kicker, which we needed badly, got the defensive end. I mean, he got everything he needed to, and so many coaches were not great their first year, you know, or they didn't perform as well what they thought. I mean, Manny he just stepped it up a level. So I'm excited to see this team. I think King is the first leader we've had in a long time at quarterback. And like you said, Jalen Phillips, nobody talks about him. #1 recruit coming into the country a few years ago. And now he's coming into possibly the 2 best defensive ends in the nation. And he's coming to that defensive line. Could you ask for anything more?
And that's what I was looking forward to, because I love defense, and I love pressure. Like, I love the sacks and things like that. As a fan, I just love seeing that. That's why I love watching Greg play so much. And you know, Roche, the same thing, the success he had at Temple. And the thing with Manny, too, is I joked earlier that I'm the same irrational fan as anyone. Look, when I work, I'm supposed to be, you know, unbiased, and, you know, but man, trust me, I'm the same fan who's throwing things. Manny's
We've seen your tweets.
Yeah, you know, and you get that feeling. But when you look at the big picture, I've always thought Manny is the right guy. I've always thought Manny, if you give him a chance, can really And I know people are saying, like, why should a coach learn on the job? Why don't you go hire so-and-so who's got 20 years experience? Yeah, but it's okay to have a guy like Manny who wants to be here. This is his dream opportunity to let him build something. And to build, you have to start from somewhere. You can't just build at the top and be like, all right, that's it. I'm Nick Saban. You have to be able to build. And I get irrational as everybody else, but I think Manny has a true plan. And whether it's this year, given everything that happened, or next year, I really think Manny is laying down the foundation of hopefully having consistent winning Canes football for a lot of years to come.
Good points. Okay. Okay. So I agree on that with Manny. I think, and people that say 20 years, it's a lot of coaches have coached 20 years. They come in, they don't do a good job. Coaches come back to programs are not the same. So, there's no given that you bring somebody in and they're going to be great. Jimmy took over a Howard Schnellenberger championship team and we lost 5 games. He was one of the greatest coaches of all time in college. But first year,
Twitter, can you imagine if there was Twitter back then?
Oh, I always say if there was Twitter back then, he would have been gone. Even when we lost to Tennessee, we had a chance to win the national championship. The year with the 5 losses that the defense fell apart. The Penn State game, I can't even imagine if there was Twitter. They would have been if there were Twitter and there were planes flying. He would have had banners, fire this bum.
He knows it too. Like, it's crazy. You have the leash as a coach now is this short. The line between a good coach and a bad coach is that short. It's crazy. But these guys know, look, they're paying a lot of money. They understand. They can handle the pressure. Like, I don't feel bad for Manny because I know Manny doesn't feel bad for himself. Like, I know he knows this is his job. He deals with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Good point.
So we're a little bit too far away from the phone to see the comments, but every once in a while there was a question there. I think Tamika.
Yeah, let me see if I can get some. Let me see. Let's see. What was your favorite thing about UM? That's a good question. As a student, my favorite thing was the campus. That camp. I tell people all the time, like when you come to UM and you see the campus and the palm trees and the water and the serenity and and as 20-year-old kid, the women and whatever. But all those things, like when you're that age and you come, it's like, man, this is where I want to be. And speaking honestly, like when I went to community college, my parents live in West Palm Beach. That's where I grew up. And I went to Palm Beach Community College because I wanted to be a baseball player. And my dream was always to play for Coach Frazier and be a baseball and play at the University of Miami. And my freshman year, I got hurt. And my sophomore year, I was healthy. And I started playing in like the fall league where we were all coming together. And I looked around and said, oh, my God, I am like third baseman on a community college team. How the hell am I going to play at the University of Miami? I said, I better start thinking about what I really want to do. And I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting, and I knew UM had a great school. I went to go visit campus, and it's to the point of the question, and I saw the TV studio, which this is 1995, beginning of 95 or so when I went to visit, and they had a studio that looked like a professional television station.
Right.
Now, can you imagine it now? Like, I go on campus now and then to go speak there, and it's like a middle market television station with equipment. So I fell in love with the program and I gave up baseball. I said, look, instead of trying to go to some small college somewhere and try to keep on to my baseball dreams of, I'm going to go to UM and study broadcasting and get this experience. And I did. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Well, and those were actually the years when our baseball team was the best ever.
Pat Burrell.
Right. Jason Michaels.
Aubrey Huff, Jason Michaels. There was some serious talent on those teams. Serious talent. I tell people all the time, Pat Burrell's the greatest college baseball player I've ever seen with my eyes. He hit 480 his freshman year.
I thought he'd be the next Pete Rose or whoever. George Brett. He was phenomenal.
He was hitting balls. Remember the light tower home run in Omaha? Like the balls that he would hit and the way the ball would sound when he would hit it. And he was advanced beyond his years. He was, obviously a first round pick, top pick of the draft, all those things. But those were some fun teams too. And obviously Coach Morris came along and they didn't skip a beat, and they won another national title a few years later. And that was a fun group.
So we'll stay on baseball for a second. This year was supposed to be a really good team. What's happening with eligibility for these guys? Are they getting a year back since they really only played a couple weeks, or?
Yeah, that's what I've been reading is that they will, and which is a big deal, obviously, and a lot of the guys too. This year was different in the sense that you only had a 5-round draft. So most guys, you wouldn't really want to go out and unless McMahon got drafted. Obviously, he got drafted early on. Who else got drafted? Why am I first round? Oh God, why am I'm like slipping here?
We had two guys right at the top.
Slade got drafted in the first round. Remember, he got drafted by Arizona. So you had these kids like they knew they were going to be first or second round picks. But when you get into the next layer of guys, I think most of those guys understand, like, do you not get drafted and sign for $20,000 with the uncertainty of where you're going to be, if there's going to be minor leagues, where you're going to train.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the end that helped Miami in the sense that, look, we're going to keep a lot of these guys. They're going to keep going in their college career and try to play another season and bring this thing back. And while they lost a couple of really nice arms, obviously, and losing the shortstop as well, I think the talent level that Gino has there, I mean, this is a talented team, and they're going to be as talented next year. But I will say this, guys, I thought this team was going to win a national championship this year, and that's not the orange and green in me. That's just they had everything you need in a team. I mean, they had offense, they had that pitcher, they had two guys going the first 40 picks of the draft as starters. I mean, these guys had a legitimate chance to be in Omaha and to go in as one of the favorites to win it all, and obviously we didn't get to see it.
No, it was tough loss on a lot of things this year that we missed out on. So hopefully they'll be able to recoup. I mean, more and more kids will want to come, so hopefully we'll get back on track next year. It's been a long time since the baseball season has dominated like they have in the past.
Yeah, I went to Omaha last time. Remember, where they lost pretty early? I think they played 3 games. They weren't 2 and done, but they got out pretty quick. But that was it was just fun to be there. To me, the Canes belong in Omaha. That's where they need to be. I mean, that's Canes baseball. It's like we talk about football, the yearly contender. Canes baseball in Omaha, to me, is like, that's just like, it's going back in that direction of being a yearly team that travels there and that competes for a title. So I'm excited about it.
So he shouts out to us, so we can shout out to him. So Uptown Dale, hey Uptown.
Uptown Dale, man, I miss him. I miss his crazy outfits that he gets. And it's funny. I can't even. Usually, I see him at Heat games and I give him a big hug. Give him a big hug, like when he's sitting there ready to do his thing. So now we have to social distance hug. So
Exactly. I don't know how that's going to be. The whole hugging and the handshaking. Is the handshake gone forever? I mean, is that one of the lost arts? Who knows?
I don't know. The last game of the Heat season, right? The one that they ended up getting, the season got stopped at that point. I remember seeing Chris Quinn before the game, one of the Heat's assistants, and we were talking down then, and we went to go shake hands, and they were like fist bump. We're like, well, is it elbow? Like we were trying to, and at the time, you're kind of not. I don't want to say joking, but you are, because you're kind of like, you don't know what's going on. We've never been through this. Now, 3.5 months later, it's like, okay, what are we going to do when we see each other again? Like, stop.
Air 5.
Yeah. Air 5 is a good one. Absolutely. Well, who do you think? Which team do you think in South Florida is the team that has the opportunity to win the championship next? I mean, or compete for a championship out of all of our sports, college, everything like that.
I always go to the Heat, and not because obviously I do stuff for the Heat, and I'm a big fan, but I'm a big fan of all the teams locally. Like, I want to see all the teams do well, but I just think the Heat, with the way the NBA is set up, meaning they already have a good team. Look, they're 4th in the East in the restart. They're a sort of contender. I don't know if they're really a true contender, like one of the teams that you really think will win it, but they're right on the cusp of that. And the way NBA free agency works, in a year or two, they can get a Giannis, a Bradley Beal, or make a move to get a Victor Oladipo or something like that, and be a team that could win a championship. Where in baseball, like the Marlins, whether you love or hate what they're doing, it is a long-term process to rebuild the minor league system. And Derek Jeter, I think, and his staff, and Michael Hill, who we talked to today, about the update of the season, they're doing a great job restocking the minor league system, but let's face it, they're a few years away from being anywhere close to that. The Panthers are always up and down. The Canes, we're trying to see, what they have. And now with the uncertainty of this season, I just think when you look at the Heat, they're in a position where Pat Riley's always going to go for it. And they're in a position where they can go make a move and get a player, and they're already a good team. So I think they're still the closest. And look, the Dolphins, I haven't mentioned the Dolphins. They got their quarterback, and I'm excited about Tua. So I would give it 2 years, 2 Tua years before we say
That could be 3 football years.
Exactly. 2 years before we figure out, because I love Tua, and I'm so happy they drafted him. I thought it was the right decision, and you got to take a chance. And he's the kind of guy that, I know it's boom or bust, but to me, if you're going to go for it, go for it. Get the kid, see what he is. And if it doesn't work out, I don't think 5 years from now, if it didn't work out, people are going to see like, oh, you shouldn't have drafted Tua, you suck. No. They
They
got
went for someone that most people are not going to be upset about. Most people are not going to say, hey, you drafted Tua. Everybody wanted Tua. So if it doesn't work out, hey, you did what everybody wanted. Of course, in this microwave society, people will be saying, oh, we told you not to draft him.
well,
But I think Flores is just doing a great job. I think no matter who the quarterback is, I think we are finally on the right track for the Dolphins.
I like Brian Flores a lot. And I mean, I remember the first time, I'll tell you guys a quick Brian Flores story, which is, coaches are always very much about time and respecting time and situations. So I'm that way. I have 3 kids of my own, so I'm always teaching them about responsibility. Hey, be on time, do this, do that. And my first interview with Brian Flores one-on-one was, it was the summer of his first year. And I think it was, or maybe it was the summer, I can't remember. It was the summer of his first year. It was around that time where Flores, it was before his first draft. That's what it was. And they told us, X time, whatever, be there. And I got there 20 minutes early. I'm there. I'm set up. My photographer had called in sick that day, and they had another photographer come in, and he had to go back to the station to get his gear, and he was running 20 minutes late. So it was 5 minutes before the interview, and I was already panicking, thinking, okay, he's like 7 minutes away. It's 5 minutes to the interview. If Flores gets here in the next 5 minutes, like if he gets here, what do I? And as I'm thinking this, Brian Flores is standing in front of me. Hey, Will, good to see you. And I had met him at his news conference when we got introduced, but, it was very brief. Coach, good to see you. Ready to go? Coach, hold on.
Just a minute.
and I had to solve it. I said, just a minute. I said, my photographer had to deal with some issues with his equipment, but he's about to park, and he'll be here like in less than 5 minutes. And Flores like, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he turns around and he walks away.
Oh.
Well, he had a news conference he was supposed to do with the other media and then meet with me one-on-one. So he goes to the news conference, does his news conference early, and then comes back out. And
wow.
He's very friendly. And he kind of said to me, like, time's a big deal to me. And I said, I get it, Coach. And from that day forward, I said, never, ever, ever miss, an exact time with Brian Flores.
Right.
But that tells you what he's about. I mean, he's a people person that his players like him, but he doesn't take BS. It's not like he's a softie. He's a tough guy, and he has the way he wants to run his program there with the Dolphins, and I love it. I mean, I love that attitude. I think they've got the right guy for the job.
So you've been at PLG for almost over 20 years now, right?
Almost 22 years. Yeah, 21 and a half.
So what would your advice be to students that are about to graduate or recent graduates for this tumultuous environment, the news industry in a whole? What would you say to them?
Well, hang in there because it's scary, like every job, like everybody graduate. I actually had a lot of conversations in the last few months with students at UM that I would normally go speak to via, social media or email, whatever, and look at their resume reels. And it's just, you got to, this business will, like all businesses, if you don't put full effort in, you're not going to succeed. But this business, you have to have some really thick skin. Like I told you, I got a job in Montana, right? First, Montana making, I'm not embarrassed to tell you, it was 1997. I was making $15,000 a year as the weekend sports anchor in Missoula, Montana. Not $15,000 a year, which is, hey.
I could buy you a lot in Montana, though.
Listen, I had Taco Bell every day. I rented movies every day. I lived like a king. I shared a room with the weather guy, and I paid $250 a month for my room. So I was
wow.
I was okay. But point being, if you want to get in this business, you have to sacrifice a lot. Meaning, you got to start small. You know that you're going to get rejected. You have to have thick skin. And I sent out, I want to say about 50 reels for that first job, 50 resume tapes and reels. Now they just send YouTube links. But back then it was different. You had to send actual tapes.
Right.
And I got one call, Montana.
Wow.
Which means I had 49 rejections. And we deal with stats in sports like missing out on 49 and 50 is not good numbers.
No.
It's not your side.
Yeah, but if the one is the Grand Slam in the World Series.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that one was
Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah. Some news director in Missoula, Montana, for some reason saw something in me and hired me. And if he doesn't, then what do I do? So you have to understand, you got to stay positive. You got to work hard, but you have to understand, you got to have thick skin. Keep sending. Don't be afraid to send your links to people. Don't be afraid to email people. I get emails all the time. And sometimes multiple times, like, hey, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And I try to get to them because I was that kid 23 years ago,
right.
Thinking, what the heck am I doing? Where am I going to be? Like, it was either go to Missoula, Montana, or work at my dad's gas station. So I said, I pumped gas through all my teenage years, to working with my dad, helping him out. But I said, Dad, that's your business. Like, I want to go make something of myself. And it took going to Montana to try to do it.
How many kids can say they pump gas for a living?
Isn't that funny? My dad, you guys, you'll get the younger kids will be like, what the hell is he talking about? My dad owned a Union 76 in Lake Worth, Florida,
Wow.
And I used to pump gas in the summer and run his little convenience store. And my dad would be changing tires left and right. And he had his mechanic there, small mom and pop body shop type of thing, auto shop. And that's where I spent my summers, my teenage years most of the time.
That's great.
Sweet. Well, Channel 10, I've been a fan. I've lived here forever, but remember Chuck Darrell, obviously, Cambrell Marshall, Frank Fort, Jimmy Selflow, yourself. Do you have the longest tenure there, 21 years?
That's a good question. Jimmy was there less, but Jimmy was, when I got there, Jimmy had been there, maybe 15 years, 14 years, whatever it was. And Frank Fort, who worked there for a long time, Frank was there a long, long time. I'd have to check back and see how long Chuck was there, because Chuck was there for a long time. I never actually had the chance to meet Chuck. I worked, how about this though? As a 23-year-old kid, I got the job, right? And talk about, I got to work with Jimmy Cephalo, Jim Mandich, Frank Fort, and Hank Goldberg.
Wow.
Those when I got there, those were the people that we would do Monday Night Football on ABC. We would do a Monday night show, and those four guys would sit at the table and talk. And I was like the young reporter who would do like a feature story on something. But I'm just sitting there going, I'm working with Jimmy Cephalo. Jimmy was my mentor. Frank, who's one of the best reporters I ever worked with, and then Hank and Jim, Mad Dog and Hank, two legends in this town. That was a pretty cool experience for a 23-year-old kid to learn.
That would be crazy.
That would be it. You probably got some good Mad Dog and Hank stories.
Can I tell you a quick Mad Dog story?
Absolutely.
My first, I had just started at Channel 10, and we had our Sunday night show, which we still do, and Jimmy and Mad Dog were the host. And Mad Dog was always the nicest guy. He took me under his wing. He couldn't have been any nicer. And I had actually come from, my second job was in Michigan. So obviously, Mad Dog being Michigan, I had told Jim about Michigan. We'd have those conversations. Michigan. So Jimmy and Frank Jimmy was the main host with Mad Dog, and Frank would fill in for Jimmy when Jimmy was off on the Sunday night show. Well, one weekend, a month into my career, I was like 3 weeks into my career, Jimmy and Frank were both off. So I had to host the Sunday night show. So we had the scripted things in the beginning, like, hey, coming up on Sports Jam. It was Sports Jam back then. This is this. You're reading off prompter over video. And then it comes out to a shot in studio of me and Mad Dog. And I froze. So, I was in, and I'm sitting there, and it comes out to a 2-shot. And it was probably 2 or 3 seconds of silence, 4 seconds of silence. But to me, it felt like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Mad Dog, being Mad Dog, turns over to me and he says, Will, this is the part where you speak. And,
got it.
I said, oh, okay. And then I started talking, and I haven't stopped talking since. But I mean, that was Jim, being Jim. So that was, but he was always, I think of Jim, and any Dolphin fan, older, especially Dolphin fan that remembers, Jim would open up his case of beer at his truck after Dolphins games, and anyone who came by, if you came by and you came by his truck, he'd hand you a beer.
Green Lizard, right? The Green Lizard, the Heineken.
He'd hand you a Heineken, and he'd say, and you'd sit there and you're talking to Jim Mandich and breaking down the Dolphins after a game. Like, how cool is that? And it wasn't just for people he knew; it was for anyone who came by his truck and just wanted a beer.
He was a legend. He was just an amazing person.
As nice as they come. I saw somebody earlier. What did they ask him? Some of the stuff. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, about De'Aaron King. Somebody mentioned what I saw somebody mention De'Aaron King and Heisman. I mean, let's just have a season. If we have a season, I'll say De'Aaron for the Heisman. Let's go.
Right.
I agree. If we can just get a season. I've not seen a quarterback for the Canes in a long time. Nothing against anyone else, but just be the leader that he is. I mean, just being a vocal leader, calling out his teammates. Every video, every social media is him practicing, playing. I mean, it is just it's amazing to see, and hopefully we get an opportunity to see his talent this year with all the defense that we have as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just, and again, maybe there's a season, and we do this again in 6 months. We're like, damn, we were wrong. This team was 6-6, and
no, we don't want that.
I'd like to take that chance.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just give us a season. Oh, look, I have family. My cousin's on here. Hey, Rick. Oh yeah. No, he's drinking wine without me. I'm drinking water and he's drinking wine.
You can actually drink anything you want in the show.
I was thinking about it. The Marlins sent us beer today. Did you read about that story?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so they sent us my bill. I live in a condo, and they said, hey, you got a package, and it was six bottles of Marlins beer. So I got them in the fridge for my days off to give it a try.
You're a
So,
special
so
brewer.
what is your work schedule now during this time?
Well, it's funny, guys. The schedule now, I usually work 2:30 to 11:30. So I get into the station at 2:30. But since I'm working from home, I pretty much work from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed.
Yeah.
Because we're always trying to figure out content. Like, it's crazy the stuff you can do on your phone. And that's another thing with like students. You have no excuse to not create content. I mean, on your phone, you can shoot video, edit video, put effects in video, music. I do all the work that I put on Channel 10. I edit on my phone.
Oh, wow.
I like Greg's interview. We taped on Saturday, I believe, and we zoomed. It records on the computer. I airdrop it to my phone. I edited it on my phone with video that I had on my phone of Greg playing, and then I sent it through an app to Channel 10 so that they get it. And that's the way we produce a video.
Wow.
So it's nuts with the technology now what you can do. So, and then I do the news at 4, 5, 6, and then tonight at 11. You know, I've been doing that now Sunday through Thursday, and we're getting through it. You know, I'm blessed that I can work from home. You know, that my boss leaves me alone. He said, "Hey, you do your thing with sports, and I trust you." And so far, you know, 3.5 months into this, we're doing okay.
I would say so.
Didn't Derek have a question? Dolphin Derek?
I did see that question in there.
He wants to know. I
Yeah.
saw it.
So the weekly question is: do you like pineapple on your pizza?
No. I like
That's a definitive no, Derek.
No, 100% no, Derek. I will say this though. I have my moments where I like this weekend we ordered pizza. My wife was like, "Oh, let's get pizza." I said, "Yeah, we've been eating really healthy. I've taken the pandemic to try to eat really healthy. We cook our own meals, you know, lean and vegetables, and we're like, oh, let's just get a pizza." And so I'm a little sometimes weird. Like, I got prosciutto on my pizza. Like, I like a little prosciutto on the pizza. But I think meat on a pizza is much different than a pineapple on a pizza. Like,
You don't like the sweet and salty or the sweet and sour or anything like that?
no, it's not my thing. No, fruit belongs on pizza or on salads. Like, I can't have like strawberry salads. Like, you know, people put like strawberries in the
Yes. 15th Street Fishery Place like that. They have that.
You can have it. It's fine, but that's not it.
Burger 21, right next to us. They do strawberries on the salad.
Will, did you do a show one time, a music show or something like that with the microphone or something like that for a short time?
I did for 2 seasons. So we had back when American Idol was like a phenomenon. I mean, when it first started, remember how popular it was? One of our producers said to us, "Hey, why don't we do like an American Idol show, but with local people?" And I was like, I don't know, 25, 26 at the time. And they said, "Have Manso do it. He could be like the Cuban Seacrest." And I said, "Wait, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" So they had me do it. We taped it at the Cameo Theater on South Beach, which is not too far from where I live. And we taped it there one season. And we did this thing called Gimme the Mic South Florida. And the funny thing is I'll have people email me now and then. They'll be like, "Hey, do you remember me? I was on Gimme the Mic season 2. How have you been? I saw you on TV or something." And it's so funny. We had so much fun doing that those 2 years. Like, it was actually a fun show to do. And a lot of good singers, that's for sure. One of my best friends, I ended up meeting a guy who was a judge, a music producer. His name is Joel Somayan, who I didn't know at the time. To this day, one of my best friends. We go golfing, and our families know each other well. I've watched his kids grow up, so it's funny how that worked out.
That's really neat.
Will, can we get a prediction, if you want to give one, a successful season? Where do you think the Canes would finish, the Dolphins this year? I mean, that they played. How far the Heat go, the Panthers? What's your thoughts on those?
Start with the Heat because they're coming up. I think the Heat, it would be a disappointment if they don't win a first-round series, right? I think if they win a first-round series and get to the second round and be competitive, I think that's a good season. Now, that's not like a losing mentality saying I want that to happen. I would love to see them go to the Eastern Conference Finals and battle for the chance to go to the NBA Finals. But I think for this team with Jimmy, you know, being the star, and Bam, the development he's had, and Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, and the young guys, I think they have to win a series. Like, I think to be a successful season, if they go one and done, I know that the pandemic stuff is going to kind of overshadow anything that happened this year. But if they go one and done as a Heat fan from a sports perspective, I think you're a little disappointed because this has been a really fun team to watch. And I think they're good enough to make it to that next round. For the Dolphins, you know, honestly, to me, it's not even about wins and losses. It's like if Tua can make it through this year and stay healthy and then at some point play games, like in his recovery, you know Fitzpatrick's going to be the guy. But whether it's game 4, game 8, or game 12 and comes in and plays well and is healthy, that's a win. Like, I just want to see Tua be healthy, and I think there's enough young talent there around the team already that they're building that you'll feel good going into the next year. Like, okay, Tua's the starter. He's our guy. Now's when we can catapult and be a playoff contender. So that's how I feel that. And the Canes, since we're talking Canes, 10 wins. Like 10 wins. Like we could do the U and 10 at the same time.
Right. That's so weird because we did the exact same thing last week because last week Dale was on for our 10th episode. So we did that exact same thing. You know, like
if you give me 10 wins, like that to me is the threshold of a college football team, like between okay and I know it's a big jump given what happened last year, but we've already talked about some of the guys that they have. And look, this defense I think can really wreck some things and cause turnovers and sack the quarterback. And I really like what Derek brings to the table as a quarterback. I think there's no reason that they couldn't make that jump to 10 wins this year. I mean,
I think they definitely should because all the guys, I know they got transfers the year before, but none of those guys were really proven except for KJ. Everybody else really was, they weren't ready to play yet. But now everybody this year, it seems to be that they are proven players.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a big difference with leadership. Manny's second year, the offensive coordinator. I mean, I think 10 wins. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything, but I think 10 wins is definitely doable, possibly even more. I don't want to drink too much Kool-Aid, but this team can do anything.
It's almost like the Heat. Like I don't want the Heat to get eliminated in the second round. I don't want the Kings just to win 10 games, but I'll be disappointed if they don't win 10 games, and I'll be disappointed if the Heat don't get to the second round of the playoffs. Like that's, and then the Panthers. Look, the Panthers are in this restart. Just beat the Islanders and make the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like the Panthers never make the playoffs. It's the same thing. I wasn't a big hockey fan when I got to Michigan, and I had to learn a crash course in hockey because in hockey it is, I mean, it's big. In Michigan, huge. I mean, I lived in the Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids area, and they had IHL teams there, and so I had to really learn hockey. Then I get the job in '99, and the Panthers make the playoffs, and they lose to the Devils in the first round. But I thought, man, this is awesome. I'm going to get to cover this every year. And then I didn't cover another one for 15 years.
That was some series. That was a game 7, right?
Yeah, that was a game.
That series, yeah.
I
mean, I don't think there's any area has 2 teams that make the playoffs less than unfortunately the Dolphins and the Panthers have.
Unfortunately, it's the same with the Dolphins. When we got here, I got here last year, and the massacre in Jacksonville. But still with JT and Zach and Patrick Surtain and all these guys and Sam Madison, they formed a nice team for the next few years post Dan when they got and then it just all went away, and then just a decade plus of. Man, this is hard to watch. So hopefully, Tua's trying to turn the corner with that.
Well, that's why we have this team makes me drink shirts.
That's true. There you go. There's a nice plug, Ken. Good job. And hopefully they'll be drinking champagne.
Yes, a bestseller. And hopefully one day you'll have it with the champagne and the championships.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
So when all this is over and you can actually take a vacation from Channel 10, where would you go first?
Well, I have a sister who lives in London. She's been there for almost 20 years. She met a guy many years ago in New York, and he had a job offer in London to go for a year, and 20 years later they never came back.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We try to go. I have my godson and my 2 nephews. There are 2 sons that live there. So I wish I could get over there. Like we had planned a big, go see them, and it's great because we get to stay with them, and they have a nice yard, and my kids play with their kids, the cousins. So that would be the first trip I would take. I'd love to go to London and go see my sister. But just as a getaway, like we were planning on going to the Keys soon, just like, a quiet spot, not like a hotel. And now that's in question. It's so funny. We booked it a few weeks ago, and I thought, okay, it's not like a big hotel, like, you're around a lot of people. It's just some quietness to yourself, in a place. And now even that's up in the air. We just don't know what's going to happen. So, but I can never go wrong with going to the Keys and, stopping by Coach Johnson's grill and having a nice little sandwich on the way down, and then hopefully enjoy some weather. So we'll see. At this point, man, let's just get through this together, man. Let's get through this. Let's get through this all healthy somehow.
Absolutely.
So any last words?
No, last words. We appreciate you on the show, Will. You were fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, and we're all in this together. Hopefully it's going to be exciting to see the sport. So I've got my fingers crossed that we're going to see every sport all at once. Just see a whole 6-pack of sports. And
if we see sports, that means things are better health-wise, because if something happens health-wise, they'll stop sports. So if we're seeing all these sports actually be played, then maybe we're turning the corner on keeping people healthy and figuring out how to deal with this and do it in a safe way. So I can't wait, guys. I can't wait to stop by the store again and be over. I'd love to get over there soon. So hopefully that'll be a reason very soon.
Hope so. Absolutely. And before you go, you got to do the U.
Oh,
another U. 10 wins. The U.
And 10.
Or 5 rings, as I say, 5 rings on each hand for baseball and football.
I like that. That's a good way to see it. Go buy championships. I like it.
Right.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Got it.
Good job. And it's a pleasure seeing you.
You got it. We'll see you soon. Be safe, everybody.
All right. Thanks.
Thank
you
you,
too.
Will. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.